Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you've had a great weekend, and we got a jam-packed call with all sorts of information today, so hopefully you got your thinking caps on. So first thing we want to talk about is the speed of trading. So this just came out. Metamako is a technology company that works with financial companies, trading companies, and they now have teamed together with one of the trading, a large trading company, which they won't. It's so secret they don't even tell us what company they're signing up with. That's how much of an arms race this is. But they've got it now down. This trading company, this large trading company, is able to make trades in 85 nanoseconds. So just to give you an idea. So this is from New York, the New York Stock Exchange to them and back in 85 nanoseconds. Just to give you an idea of how fast that is how long it takes this light to go from home plate to first base. Home plate to first base. So why am I showing this to you guys? Why am I showing this to you? What's this making the point of? First of all, do you know how much money it cost to get this? Yeah, unfair advantage, Bruce, exactly right. Unfair advantage, meaning that, you know what, if you think your money manager is brilliant, even if he's brilliant, doesn't matter. And unfortunately, Jonathan says the little guys get screwed. Unfortunately, not even the little guys are getting screwed anymore. Guess what? It's an art. You can't beat the market. You can't beat the market. That's the point I want to make here, okay? So just a little, this chart is awesome, I think. It shows right here is where we're at. This is the duration in months of the bull market. So we're now at the third longest bull market ever, and we're well above the median for the bull market. So does that mean that the market's going to crash tomorrow? No, it just means it's going to crash. And is it going to crash? We're going to have another 96 months before it happens, or is it going to happen sooner rather than later? Because we're within spitting distance of the longest one ever. Paul says don't know, and guess what, guys? I know. This is one thing I'll fucking guarantee you of. We're not going to go another 96 months with the bull market. So do you think we're closer to the end or close to the beginning of the bull market? Because apparently Paul's saying that we don't know. We could be at the closest to the beginning of it. No, we're close to the end. Thank you, Paul. Sorry for jumping on you like that. So but you're right, Paul. We don't know. Could be tomorrow. Could be 5 years from now. But we're likely to be much closer to the beginning than the end. So Jerry has just a quick announcement that he talked about on Friday, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about that same project day. Make sure everybody's up to date on it.
Well, thanks a lot, guys, and I'm glad you guys found the right picture for me. Yeah, we at least got something right on this morning's call. So that's fantastic. Hey guys, good morning. And every once in a while I like to do these, and this isn't going to be a real long promo by me. It's just whenever something comes out that's really attractive, I want to get out to you right away. And for those of you who are on the Friday call, you already heard about it, but I wanted to get that out here on Monday as well. Now, what I'm going to tell you about real quickly, too, I don't know if it's going to be around for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 months, or 3 months. So if it's something you want to take advantage of, I would jump on it. So what I want to talk about, for any of you that are familiar with the Liberty Mark from Americo, that's Legacy. It's brought to us by Legacy. Americo services it. Some of you have wrote the Liberty Mark product. They have some participation rates that are just through the roof right now on the S&P 500. So I'm not talking about a volatility index. I'm talking about actual S&P 500. Now it is a 2-year point-to-point, but their 2-year point-to-point participation rate is 92%. There's no cap on it. It's 92% of whatever the S&P 500 does. So that's 8 points shorter than just being in an ETF. Now, on that's the Liberty Mark SE, so 92% participation, 2-year point-to-point. Typically, we like 1-year point-to-points better, but with 92, I think it's something to pay attention to. And then it does come with a fee on the on that, the fee is 1.75%. So essentially, if you think of it, if you went out and bought an ETF with 15 to 30 basis points charge, you're basically getting market type exposure with a 1.5% fee to not have any downside risk. That's pretty awesome. And then they have another product. It's the same thing. It's called Liberty Mark. The other one I just mentioned was called Liberty Mark SE. I like to call it the sports edition because it goes faster.
Can I stop? Can I jump in there a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
So guys, let me ask you a question because, obviously we have the DOL coming up here in April. Do you think you could validate with this particular product, do you think you could validate that this was the best place to put people's monies if you're paying 1.5% to basically get whatever the market does, or 92% of what the market does, with no downside risk? Is that something that you guys could say is the best place for somebody's money? Let's see some answers to that. Yeah, Michael's saying it's cheaper than money managers as well. So, I mean, this is the kind of thing that will allow you to still make a very good living regardless of what happens here in April. So, and it's a good thing to be thinking about right now. So, sorry about that.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, this is insane. We're talking about, this is for the safe money. I mean, it's ridiculous. That's why I wanted to jump on the call and bring this up. So they have another version too, which is called Liberty Mark. Same thing as the other one, but we have a little lower fee. So it's for someone who wants a little lower fee, it's a 1.25% fee, and then instead of the 92% participation, it's 80% participation. So to be honest with you guys, these are ridiculous par rates. I would like this even if it was at 50 or 55 or 60, but we're at 80 and 92. It is a 2-year point-to-point, so we can get a little bit more par rate, but it's pretty outstanding. And if you want to move into the 1-year strategy, on the SE, the cap is at 8%, and on the regular Liberty Mark, it's at 6.6. So for any of you guys that have any questions about it, you're not familiar with the product, maybe you have wrote it, this is the time to jump on and use it again. Give myself, Jeb Meeson, or Jeff Van Grinsven a call after the call, and we're more than happy to fill you in on the details. But like I said, I don't know if this is going to be around for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 2 months before it gets changed. And like Mike said, we do, take advantage of it while you can, and there'll be something else down the road. So that's all I got for today.
Well, I'll tell you straight out, I ain't going to be around long because we've seen it with insurance companies, Jerry. What happens when everybody starts piling the money into the product?
Yeah, what happens is they want to shut down business. I mean, they'll move the product. Usually what happens, we've seen it throughout this year, everybody starts putting money in somewhere, and then they kind of chop that product down. In a way, it's turning the faucet off, saying we don't want any more business. So if you want to get business in, the best thing is to get in on the front end with it before they change that rate.
Perfect. Thanks, Jerry.
They will change it. Yep, thanks, Mike.
Yeah. So first wave of IDI results, I was going to let people know. Average of 5.4 clients that had assets that went through the entire process. So it was a lot more assets than that, but for whatever reason, this is the average. So a lot of the reason that people didn't go through the entire process was because of why? Why? Because guys, we're doing it the way they're supposed to be doing it. Exactly, Bruce. The advisor was still learning or didn't take the time to study like he should have or whatever, and he screwed it up. But still, even with all of that, we had an average of 5.4 clients that had assets that went through the entire process, an average of 2.1 million in found assets. That's per mailing, guys. Now, once somebody knows the 21-point checklist backwards and forwards, and this is just 5.4. This is not including the people that the advisors missed. So the average is 2.1 million. Once you know how to do the 21-point checklist, where the client tells you for an hour and a half to 2 hours that they can't trust their guy, how much of this 2.1 should you be harvesting per mailing? All of it, Jonathan, exactly, all of it. The average closing ratio was 49%. Now, why was it 49%? Because some of the guys are still learning. Some of the guys have learned how to do the 21 appropriately. Thank you very much, guys, publicly. Thank you for learning and putting the time and effort, the 4 weeks or the 6 weeks of diving and knowing that thing backwards and forwards. Thank you for doing that. And the rest of you learn from those guys, because those guys had a closing ratio much higher than the 49%. So guys, just learn the 21-point checklist backwards and forwards, okay? So what should you be doing to fix that 49% closing ratio if you're below that? Learn the 21. Now the deadline is approaching fast to do the IDI for the end of this year, because you don't want to get, now you can actually do the IDI in November, December. What's the problem with that? You can get a lot of people in November, December. What's the problem with that? What about the holidays? Because you can still get them to come to the IDI. What about the holidays? Yeah, distraction. What will it see? It doesn't hurt your appointment ratio for the IDI. What's it going to hurt? Ah, Tom's got it. It drags out the process. Drags out the process from a 2 or 3 week process to a 6 week to an 8 week process. What's the problem with dragging the sales process out to a 6 or 8 week process? Yeah, they forget. It's just they forget. They lose interest. Whatever. Closing ratios go down. Now, if you drip on them, they'll come back, but they may come back 6 months from now. They may come back a year from now. So if you want this to work the way it's supposed to work, which is to close these things in 2 to 3 weeks to a month, you got to get going on the deadline. So, Missy, can you just talk to that a bit?
I sure can. So yeah, we're really looking at, you've got 2 weeks, 10/7, which is exactly, well, it was 2 weeks from Friday, to get the order form in, which means that you can expect mail to be hitting really the last week in October, is what we'd be targeting at that point.
And that's still giving you plenty of time to get through the process. So does that mean 10/7? No, you may be able to bleed it another week, but boy, that's about it. After that, you're now working with the laws of diminishing returns, okay? So everybody clear on that? If you want to get going, you got to get it. So those of you that just started here in the last couple of months and want to get one going, you better get all the stuff we've asked you to do, get done with your 21 lights, with learning the 21, etc., in order to get this going. And those of you that know the process, if you want to get in another one, this is the deadline, okay? So once the IDI has gotten you your money, then what do you want to do? With a new client, what's the process with a new client? And a lot of guys have forgotten about this. So if you go to the website and you hit implementation meeting, or I'm sorry, if you hit new client annual review, which so the one, obviously the one thing I wanted to show you was chopped off here at the bottom. It's new client annual review, and then there's a new client process to bring people on. You want to send out the welcome letter how quickly, guys? New client, no, well, Bruce says next day. You know what I say? Same day. Welcome gift, same day. Now, what's the welcome gift? What can you use for a welcome gift? Whatever you want, but I like the blanket. I like the blanket. So if you can find one of those, that's what I would do. And then a letter to their attorney and their accountant. Why do you want to send a letter to their attorney and accountant? Numerous reasons. One is it makes sure that they don't spoil the deal. Two, it's a way for you to get your name in front of those folks so that for possibility of referrals and use of the CPA system down the road, okay? And then get them on the epidemic monthly mailing. Get them on the epidemic monthly mailing. And when should that go out? Within the first week. Make sense? So don't forget to do this stuff. Do not forget to do this stuff. I want to talk a little bit about the book Nudge. Nudge is talking about how people make decisions. It's about behavioral finance. It's about persuasion. It's about all sorts of different things. So one of the examples they give is this. And this is the stuff that we do every single day. There was a lunch lady in a large school system. And she wanted to get the kids to eat more healthy. So if you tell kids about the advantage of eating healthy, if you have the teachers have units on eating healthy, how much work, how much help does that do? Does that make a difference whatsoever? When you preach to the kids, when you tell, sell, preach, and teach to the kids about healthy eating, does it help? Not even close. But this is what this brilliant lunch lady did. She used choice architecture. Choice architecture meaning that she rearranged the food. And by rearranging the food, she found she could increase or decrease the consumption by more than 25%. So by rearranging the food, she could increase the consumption of healthy foods by 25% and decrease the consumption of unhealthy foods by 25% just by rearranging the foods. So, we think we're in control of our decision-making process, but guess what? Our minds use all sorts of shortcuts to make those decisions. And if you understand choice architecture, then you can help them with that. Guess what 5Q is awesome at? Choice architecture. Now you think, well, yeah, that's kids. That's kids. How is that going to work on adults and smart people? This is, I think, a hilarious anecdote, which is, did you know that Sir Isaac Newton invented the cat door? Did anybody know that? I want to see a yay, at least one yay. Did anybody know that Sir Isaac Newton invented the cat door? Because he loved cats. So nobody knew that. Well, here's the funny thing, though. Sir Isaac Newton, smart or dumb? Smart or dumb? Smart. So he had a mama cat and a kitten. Mama cat and a kitten. So guess what he did? He cut 2 cat doors into his doors. He cut 2 cat doors into his car door, so one for mama cat and one for baby cat. Well, what happened? What happened? Yeah, they both used the one door. They didn't need the other door. So even really smart guys doesn't when you get out of their area of expertise are not all that bright. See, as Einstein said, the difference between stupidity and genius is that genius has its limits. Stupidity does not have its limits. So we make decisions based on what Nudge, the book Nudge is talking about. Is we make decisions based on 2 different types of things. One is the gut reaction automatic system. The other is the conscious thought reflective system. And guess what percentage of the time, which one do you think we use most often and what percentage of the time? We are just mentally lazy. We do not 50%, give me a break, Terry. 70%, give me a break, Keith. Yeah, how about 90+% of the time? Because when we're talking about conscious reflective thought, we're talking about what? Sitting down and thinking things through, putting the positives and the negatives on it, and removing all what? When we're making it, removing all what with this conscious thought? Emotion. Removing all, with the conscious thought, removing all emotion. Guess how many people make, guys, think about how you bought your house. How much time and thought did you go into buying your house? How much time and thought went into buying your car? The 2 biggest things that you ever buy, how about this? If your kids go to college, so we got home, college, and cars. 3 biggest things we'll ever buy in our lives. And how much logic went into those? I mean, I'm going through this right now. I just went through it 4 years ago with one of my boys and going through it again with my other boy. Are they sitting down and doing a Ben Franklin close on which college they want to go to? When you buy your house, how quickly did you know you're going to buy your house? When you walked into that house, how quickly did you know you're going to buy your house? Those of you that watch HGTV, when people are buying their house, is it a logical thing or it's an emotional thing when they buy the house? Yeah, first 30 seconds, that's me too, Cheryl. You walk in, you say, this is it. So if you know how people think, which is the gut reaction system, guess what? We can nudge them the right way. See, we use heuristics, which is actually a fancy word for saying we use mental shortcuts to get us through the day, because we have all sorts of decisions we have to make every single day. So we make decisions based on, oh, that's just common sense. Hey, common sense works sometimes, and guess what? Doesn't work other times. There's lots of things that would think that were common sense that ends up being actually back asswards. Best practices, rules of thumb, intuitive judgments. So there's a lot of things that go on here, but what they found is that, here's what they found. if you're an expert in something, if you're an expert in astrophysics, if you're an expert in neurology, if you're an expert in real estate, if you're an expert in something, have they found that you should go with your gut reaction, or have they found that you should go with let me go back here, with conscious thought? If you're an expert in something, should you go with gut reaction, or should you go with conscious thought? This is a weird thing that they found. Gut, you're right, Paul, gut. They found that if you're an expert, you know, because if you're an expert in a thing, you have huge amounts of information percolating in your brain. Huge amounts of information percolating in your brain. And they found that if you're an expert at something, if you sit down and think about it, you might end up making a bad decision because you start to doubt yourself. So your brain can take all, it is an amazing computer, and if you're an expert in something and have all sorts of information and experience, you should do your gut reaction when you're presented with a problem. But what do you think they found if you're not an expert in something? Guess what you should do? Conscious thought. You need to go in Ben Franklin close it. You need to go through the whole process of the advantages and disadvantages. You need to think things through. Don't move very quickly. Now, our clients, even the do-it-yourselfers who think they know what the heck they're doing, are they experts? Do they have huge amounts of information on their particular process? No. So they're going with what? They're going with the gut reaction system. They're taking shortcuts. So a choice architect sets the best possible defaults. As a choice architect, setting the best possible defaults is important. The way information is framed influences the individual. So guess what we're great at with 5Q? What are we great at? I'll give you a hint here in the verbiage. Yeah, framing, Michael. Framing, framing, framing. We do it all the time. It's how we present the information. It's when we present the information. So you got to do it. We give you the script. Guess what the scripts were designed around, guys? Framing. Framing, framing, framing. That's what the scripts are designed around. So not just talking about we want to be libertarian paternalists or utilize libertarian paternalism, which is saying that libertarian means freedom of choice should never be in doubt. Architects should preserve or increment the number of choices. Paternalism means architects can influence people's behaviors to make their lives better, as judged by the people themselves. Not by us, but by the people themselves. So what Nudge is talking about is we're going to alter people's behavior in a predictable way. Does not limit options. Guys, does 5Q limit their options? Do we tell them what they can and cannot do? I mean, think about our FIA presentation. We present what 3 different choices for the FIA presentation? What 3 choices do we present for the FIA presentation? Safe, market, and the Warren Buffett option, right? So safe, market, Warren Buffett option. So do we tell them that they should we'll go one way or the other? No. Do we ever tell them they should do one thing or another? What is telling, selling, preaching, teaching about? What is telling, selling, preaching, and teaching about? It's my way or the what? Yeah, one choice only. One choice only. It's my way or the highway with telling, selling, preaching, and teaching. We use, do you see how we, without even knowing this, when I designed this back in 1997, or started designing it, this book wasn't even written. It was 15 or 16 years later this book was written. I wouldn't, if you said, what is libertarian paternalism, I wouldn't even known. This is allowing, this is motivational interviewing, right? Allowing people to make their own choice. And are we putting people in a better situation with this? Heck yeah, we are. Way better than what they were before. So nudging people in a direction that will make their lives go better without eliminating the freedom of choice. That's exactly what we do. So here's some examples of that. Should I get this surgery? Well, you probably have seen this study before. A doctor puts surgery in 2 different ways. One, they say, hey, 90 out of 100 patients who get the surgery are alive 5 years from now. The other says 10 out of 100 patients who get surgery are dead 5 years from now. So if they put it as number 1, how many people want the surgery? Lots or little? Yeah, lots. If they put it number 2, do lots or little people want the surgery? Little. But mathematically or logically, these are what? The exact same. It's just how you frame it. It's just how you frame it. See, another example of nudge. Studies show that most people tend to choose the second most expensive item on the list. So we got a $4, $7, $3, and $10. Most people would choose the second most expensive, which is the $7. Another thing, here's another thing. If you want somebody to tell you the truth, should you have them sign the form before they fill in the form or after they fill in the form? If you want honesty, should you have them sign it before they fill it out or after? What do you think? You guys are brilliant. Yes, it is before. Yes. If you want them to be honest, you want to have them sign it before, and they're much more likely to be honest. But you know what? Here's common sense. How are all forms signed? After. So we do it. Why? Why do we sign the form after? So it's the way we've always done it. So that's not common sense. It is common sense to have it signed after, but it's really not how it should work. And those of you who said before, you're absolutely right. So people don't think things through, especially if the decision is hard. And what are we asking them to do? Easy or hard decisions? Hard. And if they have to think it through, what are they likely to do? If we don't help them, if we don't nudge them, if we don't don't use libertarian paternalism to allow them free choice to make good decisions for themselves, but frame it in a way that makes it easy, what are they going to do? Nothing. Nothing. They'll do nothing. I'll give you an example of this. 6 years of your life, big decision or not a big decision? Yeah. So when I was in high school, I joined up with the Navy. I scored in the 99th percentile for both English and math. So guess how many colleges would have taken me? But I signed up for the Navy because I didn't know any better. I never met with a guidance counselor because I was from a huge high school where my class was of 900 kids, and my parents had never been to college, so they didn't know. So I didn't talk to anybody. So I just joined the Navy. Guess how much thought I put into that? A lot or a little? Did I do a Ben Franklin? No, very little. Very little. Now, every day that I was in the Navy, I wanted to get out of the Navy. If I would have just spent a little bit of time and thought about it, guess what? So I needed a choice architect. You know who else needs a choice architect? Our clients, exactly. So let's talk about how, just one aspect of how we use choice architecture with the 5Q system. We frame our questions. We frame our questions. How many seconds go by, do you think, with me with the client? Well, you've heard the tapes. How many seconds go by before I ask a question? Yeah, 10, 15 seconds go by before I ask a question. Yet when you listen to me, if you bounce through the tape, you'd hear me talking a lot. What am I doing when I'm talking? Am I making statements? Am I telling, selling, preaching, teaching? What am I doing when I'm talking? I'm framing the questions. I'm framing the questions is what I'm doing. I'm not telling them what to think, but I'm framing the question so they know what to think. I'm framing the question so it's easy for them to answer. Does that make sense? So let's talk about GOTS, because GOTS is what allows us to ask all these questions. And guys get a little bit confused on this. There's two types of GOTS. There's two types of getting on their side. One is the big time GOTS, and you should be doing that for 3 minutes plus. That is when they give me an objection. When they say an objection is if they say anything I don't like. If they say anything I don't like, I'm going to get on their side with ape, with agree, parrot, and empower. Is that how I'm going to get on their side? No. When they say something I don't like, I'm going to get on their side for 3+ minutes. I'm going to be shooting for 5 minutes telling them that what they said was absolutely true. Not 100% true, 150% true. No reservations. No, I am for whatever they believe, I am the poster child for what they believe. And I'm going to go on and on and on and on and on. That is the one time I do all the talking. Do I ask questions? Do I ask questions or many questions when I'm getting on their side after an objection? No, Jeannie, you're right. That's the one time. No, Micah, you're right. That's the one time I don't want to ask questions. See, they know what's going on in their head. They gave the objection. So if they give me the objection, do they know what's going on in their head? Yes. What they don't know what's going on in my head. So I've got to tell them what's going on in my head. And I have to tell them, you know what, what's going on in your head is exactly what's going on in my head. We are the same. We think exactly alike. So that's what we're doing with the big time objections. And then after every single question we ask them, though, when they answer a question, then we give them a small GOTS. That's when we ape them. That's when we agree, parrot, or empower them. Make sense? So an easy way to think about it is if they know what's going on in their mind, so when they give me an objection, do they know what's going on in their mind? Do they have a clear thought in their mind when they give me an objection? Let's see some answers to that. Yes, they do, Keith. Right. Yes, Jonathan. What they don't know what's going on in my head. So just like we say that we don't know what they're thinking unless we ask them questions, well, they don't know what I'm thinking unless I what? So when they give me an objection, they don't know what I'm thinking unless I what? Tell them. So I'm going to tell them and tell them and tell them. I'm shooting for 5 minutes. I'd be happy with 3 minutes. So what am I doing there? Why, when they give me an objection, am I telling them what I think? I'm lowering their resistance. I'm telling them, hey, what you think is what I think. We're on the same side of the table. We're on the same side. I'm the poster child for what you think. So what happens to them when I tell them, you know, when I move to their side of the table, when I move to their side of the argument, when I tell them not only do I think like you, I think 150% like you, then allows me, let's see what Michael says. They probably expect us to defend a position, which throws them off. Yep. And then they forget their objection, right, Mike? That's one of the things we do is they'll forget what even brought up this whole conversation to begin with. Lowers their stress, Craig, right? Lowers their resistance, Dale. Resistance goes down, Jeannie. Yep. Drops their guard. Yeah. So it's all those things. Now, when I'm going through the 21, do I know what they're thinking? No. That's why I have to ask them questions so that they then tell me what's going on in their mind. So the only time I'm doing all the talking is when they give me an objection, and then I'm going to go ahead and tell them, hey, I think just like you. But when I'm asking questions, I'm trying to figure out what's going on in your head, and the only thing I know what's going on in their head is if I tell them and then they say yes or no. Is that how I know what's going on in their head? When I say, hey, so does this make sense to you? No, that's right. They have to give me, I ask open-ended questions, so they'll tell me what's going on in their head. And this whole premise is that they will not say something out loud unless they what? Believe it. Can they say something? Can they say something out loud? Can they give me a thought? Can they give me a belief if they don't believe it? Will they verbalize a belief? Will they verbalize a thought if they do not believe it? You're right. Everybody's saying no. No, they will not. They can't. They can't. And here's how I know, guys. Guys, how much do I beat you about the head and shoulders? How much do I coach you? How much do I tell you you need to do the 15-minute drill so that you can do that one thing? And can you do it, or do you struggle? See, nobody's coaching them, so guess what? They cannot say something they don't believe. So that's terrific for us because now we can read their minds. Make sense? But what have we just found out about what they believe? Is there a way to be a choice architect to help them believe in the right answer, believe in the right thing? I mean, don't we do it with our children? Do we want our children to be honest? Do we want our children to be kind? Do we want our children to do the right thing? So is it okay to nudge your children? Is it okay to frame questions for your children to help them do the right thing, or should we give them total free will and free thought? Because if you give children total free thought, free will, how are they going to grow up? Yeah, crazy, as wild animals. That's what they're going to grow up as. Are they going to be caring individuals if we just grow up and don't nudge them in the right direction? So is it okay to nudge people in the right direction? So here's a question I have for all of you, and I want to see a bunch of yeses or nos on this. Are with 5Q, are we nudging them in the right direction, or are we being mercenary and only nudging them in the direction that we're going to make a ton of money? I'm getting a bunch of right direction. Good. Tons of right direction. Okay, what are other advisors doing? They think they're doing the right thing, but really, what are they doing? Making money, making money, making money, making money, selling, exactly. So how do we get them to tell us the right thing? How do we nudge them in the right direction? Well, we frame our questions. So there's a number of different questions. There's a true-false question. There's a matching question, fill-in-the-blank question, multiple-choice question. So these are in levels of difficulty. So these are all ways to test somebody's knowledge. This is all ways to test somebody's belief. So these are great questions to ask. These are great questions to ask, folks. But if we really want to know what they believe, we have to ask them what? These are indications of what they believe, but these are more factual questions. If we want to know what they believe, what do we need to ask? What kind of a question? A why, or open an essay question. We need to ask them an essay question. So all of our scripts are based on the true, false, matching, fill in the blank, multiple choice, a few small essay questions, but at the end, when we're getting them to point the finger at their guy, it always has to be what kind of a question? An essay. It always has to be an essay. So Jeff, have you got your computer straight out? Are you on the call yet?
Yep, he's on.
Yep.
CP.
Yep, I'm here.
There you go.
Yeah, so what would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, you have to, you can't know anything anybody is asking unless you ask an essay question. I mean, there's no way for you to know exactly what they're thinking unless you ask.
So all of these questions that we're asking, these true, false, matching, fill in the blank, multiple choice, they're all to set up, to give them enough, oh, I can hear somebody whispering there. So all of those questions we're asking throughout the script are all to set up to make the essay question hard or difficult? Hard or difficult? Answering all those questions up front, the easy questions like the true, false, matching, fill in the blank, multiple choice that we do through a script, because that's what all the script is, we're asking question after question after question, but they're these types of questions. They don't require a huge amount of work. It's to set up the essay question so it's what? Much easier. So it should be all the information they need to answer the essay question is where? It's in the script. It builds up to the essay, right, Andre? It's all in the script so that by the time we get to the essay, they're like, oh, he just wants me to put all of those answers I just gave him into a what? A paragraph. See, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. Anybody get a chance to read this essay? It says, explain a nitrogen atom in the upper atmosphere becomes useful to an archaeologist trying to determine the age of a bone. I have to be honest with you, I didn't go over this problem last night, and I didn't pay attention to it in class yesterday. I do not care about this. I don't even like science, but I do like you, and I don't want to ruin our friendship since I don't know what this is. I have a question for you. I just started texting this girl, and I know that she's thinks I'm cute, but I don't really know how to start conversations with. So I was wondering if you have any ideas. Well, that's all for now, Mr. J, but we'll keep in touch. So what he says, impress her by talking about atmospheric nitrogen can be used with to date artifacts. Works for me every time. So, guys, if we ask an essay question, you don't know the answer, and they answer this way, we're going to immediately know what? Even though they went blah, 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 we know they don't know what? Anything. And this is what keeps you out of trouble. Remember that guy in California who got in trouble for selling that lady $350,000 in annuities, and she was not in a right frame of mind. She was actually in the mid stages of Alzheimer's. Well, how did he do it? He said, hey, does this make sense? And what did she say? So he asked her. He was asking her questions all the way through. He probably asked her a dozen questions. Every time he said, hey, does this make sense to you? What did she say? No, Cheryl. She said she didn't understand. He wouldn't have sold her the frickin' thing. What did she say? Yep, uh-huh. And I have a father-in-law who is in later stages of Alzheimer's now, but when he was in early and mid stages of Alzheimer's, we'd go to restaurants and did the waitress have any clue that he had Alzheimer's? No, because they're very good at saying, nodding and smiling, saying, yep. Yeah, they don't object, Mark. They just agree to everything. Yep. And that's a great lesson for us. When we're losing our conscious thought, when we're losing our decision-making abilities, what default do we go to? What default do we go to? Not objecting. We say yes. So do you have any indication now why you'll go through with telling, selling, preaching, and teaching, you're asking them constantly, does this make sense? Does this make sense? Do you get that? Is this right? And they say, yeah, for an hour, and at the end they say, what? I need to think about it. Why? Because they weren't really agreeing, were they? They were using fillers. But when they give us an essay question, guess what we know? They believe it now. Make sense? They believe it. They have to tell us why. Now, why do we ask them the same question over and over 10 different ways? Guys, for those of you that remember what it was like in grade school or have kids that go through grade school, here's how I understood that it works. Addition, geez, that's pretty darn easy, so that only took about 1 week. And then the next week we went into subtraction, that's pretty darn easy. Next week we went into division, that's pretty darn easy. Next week we went into division or multiplication, that's pretty darn easy. The next week we went into division, that's pretty easy. So within 1 month, we were experts at adding, subtracting, multiplication, division, right? Is that how it went? They're all easy. They're easy concepts. So is that how we did it? No. How long did we spend on addition before we moved to subtraction? Months. How many sheets? How many times did they make you do addition problems before we moved on? A whole semester, right, Keith? And then how many problems did they make you do during that semester? Over and over and over and over. So guys, I know that you get this stuff, but guess who doesn't get it? I know you believe this stuff, but guess who doesn't believe it? So it's the fact that we can ask them 7 times and get them to believe it, that's a miracle. So don't short it. When I'm talking about beneficiaries, why do I want them to say that it's equally, kids equally, kids equally, kids equally, kids equally? Why do I want them to say that 10 times? Why do I make up questions, excuses to have a question where they say kids equally? Why do I want them to say that? Because do I ever look at their beneficiary form? When was the last time they ever looked at their beneficiary form? Never. So I need them to say that 10 times so they believe it by the end, so when we go into what actually happened, they're not going to be doubting it at that point. Does that make sense? So what would you add to that, Jeff?
Yeah, I have a son that's learning addition right now, and it's constant repetition. It's something that you have to, these are things that they have to be able to tell you, and you have to be able to lead into it. They can't just answer open-ended questions right out of the gate. You have to ask the questions, you have to have the props, you have to have the diagram in front of you, you have to have the proposal in front of you, you have to lead them through this so that they can answer the question. And it is something they haven't done it before, it's unfamiliar to them. They'll say yes to a lot of things, but until they can explain it back to you, they haven't actually thought it through in their mind. And the real goal of motivational interviewing is to get them to think about it right there out loud in front of you so that they don't have to go home and think about it some more.
And I would equate it to what the essay question is algebra. If I had never learned addition, if I'd never learned subtraction, if I'd never learned division, if I'd never learned multiplication, and I was trying to learn those things while I was learning the algebra, guess what, guys? If I had not mastered those skills and then I'm going to try to do algebra, what would happen? Fail. I have to have those down backwards and forwards before I can actually get into the essay question. I have to have those things back and forth before I can get into algebra. So all these questions that we're doing during the script, the true, false, matching, fill in the blank, multiple choice, all those little tiny questions we're asking in the script, we're building up to the crescendo so they have all the information they need to answer the essay. Because if they have to think about these things the same time they're answering their essay question, it's going to be really problematic. So where to start? Well, when you're asking a question, the first thing you need to know is very, very specifically what you want them to say. If I don't know specifically what I want them to say, guess what? If I ask a vague question, guess what I'm going to get? If I ask a vague question, what am I going to get? If I ask a vague question, what am I going to get? A vague answer, right? A vague answer. If I ask a specific question, I'm going to get what? A specific question or a specific answer. So here's the thing. I never ask, how often do I ask questions? I do occasionally, but how often do I ask questions where how often do I ask a question where I don't know exactly what the client's going to say? Rarely. See, all that yapping that I'm doing, when you listen to me, all that yapping I'm doing is specifically done to set up the what? Multiple different answers or the one answer? The one answer. And I can't set up the one answer unless I know what it is I'm trying to get them to say. So do we give you a tool that tells you exactly what you want them to say? Let's see if anybody can get this. Do we give you a tool that will tell you exactly what you want them to say that you can use when you're with a client? What's that tool? Not the scripts, because you're not going to have the scripts in front of you when you're with the client. What tool do we give you that tells you exactly what the client needs to say? Come on, guys. Jerry's got it. Okay, now we're getting it. It's the crib notes. On the crib notes, what's in red on the crib notes, guys? What's in red on the crib notes? It's what you want them to say. So do I really care what question you ask them to get them to say that? No. So whatever question you want to, and now I give you the questions to make it easy. I give you the questions to make it easy, but if you want to, if you don't need to memorize it word for word, you need to memorize the question so the answer is the same. Does that make sense? So let me give you an example of that. Well, here's some. I'm going to give you an example here in a second. But here's the techniques we use. I let them finish my sentences. I end my sentence. How often do I end my sentences with what? That's a little technique that I use quite often. I use a ridiculous or exaggeration. What I mean by that is if I don't want them to answer, if I'm giving them a choice between two answers, one of them is going to be ridiculous. If one of them is ridiculous, it means how many answers are there? If I'm giving the choice of two answers, one is ridiculous, there's only one answer, right, Paul? I talk in a language where they can predict what you're going to say. And that's a high-level skill that you'll get. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. So you use pacing and you use accents to accent, meaning you put more emphasis on one part of the sentence than the other part of the sentence to get them what you want them to say. If you don't, if you run out of ideas on how to get them to say something, well, you can always use the tell and retell, which means you go ahead and tell them the idea that you want, and then you have them what? Tell it back to you. Tell and retell. And if you slip up and ask a close-ended question, you can always follow up with what? Yeah, and why? So I slip up sometimes when I ask a close-ended question, and I'm like, oh, that's a close-ended question. All they answered was yes, or all they answered was no. I have to make sure I know what's going on in their head. The only way I'm going to know that is if I ask them an open-ended question. So I just say, yeah, and why? Okay? So let me give you an example of that. So Jeff, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
So Jeff, what color is this guy? And without looking at the picture, pretend you're not looking at the slide. If I ask you what color is the sky, what are you 90% of the people likely to say?
Blue.
Blue. But if I know I want you to say the sky is black, guys, what would I do? I'm going to frame the question, say, so Jeff, if you walked out, if you're camping in the wilderness, and you walked out in the middle of the night, and there was no moon in the sky, and you looked in the sky, what color would that sky be?
Black.
So, am I giving him one answer there, guys? How many other answers are they going to say to that? How many other answers can they say to that? None. What if I want to say, so Jeff, you know, if you walked out and it was overcast, you know, and it was late morning, overcast, low-hanging clouds, what color would the sky be?
Gray.
See, I'm just giving him the information he needs to give me the answer. So are most people going to answer gray? Are most people going to answer black? But I can make him if I want him to, right? So Jeff, if you're down in Key West, you know, now everybody lines up the beach in Key West, right? And they all, because they celebrate the sunset. And boy, when that sun goes down, what kind of colors do you get in that sunset?
Oh, red, orange, yellow.
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
So guys, it seems like a simple question. What color is the sky? But we've come up with how many really different answers? But if I want Jeff to say any of them, all I need to do is what? Know specifically, oh, I want Jeff to say it's orange and yellow. So I know specifically how to ask, what information to put in the question to get him to say what I want him to say. Does that make sense? Now here's the great thing. Do you need to do this or invent this yourself? No. Why don't you, Steve? Why don't you, Jonathan? We've created the scripts for you. Right, Todd? We have the 21 scripts. So does this, guys, we use choice architecture. That's why we set up the scripts the way we do. That's why we have to give them choice, but we have to nudge them in the right direction. That's why we have the script setups in a particular order. We start with Survivor's Guide, and we spend 40 minutes before we get to the financial. We start with third-party agreement on how a concept works before we get to their particular situation. We ask them a lot of factual questions so that by the time we get to the essay, it's easy for them to ask or answer the essay questions. Guys, I don't think some of you get the amount of psychology, the amount of technology, the amount of artistry that's been put into the 21-point checklist. And if you don't learn it, guess how you're treating that gift that we've given to you? You've heard me talk about the fireman. If I asked a fireman to learn the 21-point checklist script, gave him 2 weeks and offered to pay him $200,000, how many of them would know it better than you? And guys, I need to ask you this question now. That might have been a theoretical question before the IDI, but now that we're putting people in front of you, that $200,000, I get back here, that $200,000 is it theoretical? Is it theoretical or not? If you close $2.1 million, what are we talking about there, guys? $120K. Do 2 mailings in a month, what are we talking about? $240. So this $200,000 that I'm paying the fireman, that's one time only. We're talking about how much money per month here, guys? We're talking about $100,000 per month. We're talking about $200,000 per month. If you treat the 21-point checklist with the respect it deserves to be given. Make sense? So let's get busy, and when you're not seeing these IDI clients, you should be doing what? Mastering the 21, okay? Super. So all you guys have nailed that first wave of IDIs. I can't wait to see what you're going to do with the second wave. And those of you that struggle a little bit in that first wave, dudes, learn the 21. Okay? Learn the 21. Hope you all have a great day, and we'll talk to you all on Friday. Thanks, everybody.